somebody who's that far away, and it's just by email. My learning curve wasn't what I expected. I was surprised to see how difficult it was for our students to answer the other school's questions. I had expected us to find it difficult to ask the questions. I hadn't really thought about, when they were asked a question, how it was going to translate, and actually they really had to up their game at that point, because they had another class actually looking at them and they had to get the answers right. It was fascinating. And also linking these students had a profound effect on them. They live in an island 3 miles by 1 in the Channel with a population of 1,500. The school they were talking to had that many students in their school. The turning point was right at the very end, sorry, when we started talking just about a cultural exchange, and the Arkansas students were very ready to tell us information about their island and what where they lived and what they did, and the Alderney students were very much arms crossed. We don't do anything. We're very, we live in an island, but it's very boring. Until they started talking about going to the beach after school and sea swimming. Well, it was the moment, because the Arkansas students are landlocked. It's 6 hours drive from any beach, and the Alderney students suddenly became really animated and important, lifting the laptop and showing the Arkansas students the beach that they could see from their window. And it was wonderful to see the transition and the learning happening that day. If I can, this video, it won't play straight from here. I'm just going to see if it's woken up. No, it hasn't. Okay. What I was going to show you is, and hopefully I have sent a link to ResearchEd so you can watch it, but it's that, what I've got is the moment that the students had that conversation, and it is really nice to see. Okay. The students themselves then took the learning further. The students themselves decided that they wanted to send a package to each other, and it was about sending things that had a meaning to where they lived. So here is an Arkansas student holding a pound note. Yes, we still have pound notes in Ghana. I'm very proud of it. And the left one is an Alderney student holding with a baseball cap on and a jar of pickles. And actually, I couldn't go back that day, but if you look closely, I was sitting watching in from Guernsey. Since then, we've had cultural exchanges about the weather, holidays with Netherlands, Mexico and India. We connected with Canada, but again, a learning curve. The time difference isn't right for Canada. So, which teacher and student wants to come back to school at 6 o'clock in the evening? Not many, so we've worked our way around that, which I'll talk about a bit later. We were asked to find a link with explorers, so we brought in an expedition leader. Somebody wanted a link with Roman artifacts, so we talked to the British Library. We couldn't actually make that one happen, but a author who writes Roman mysteries actually Skyped in or hung out. I was asked by the secondary school who were doing business studies, and if I could find somebody in advertising, and I've got a brother who works in advertising in London. It's all good. People don't want to be related to me now. But he told them about, they asked him about what was the nicest advert that he remembered being involved with. And I don't know whether any of you were actually old enough to remember, but there's an advert where it's a Cadbury's advert where the gorilla is playing the drums and there's the Phil Collins music. Well, that's what he was involved with. And as the lesson finished, you could just hear the music playing and all the kids going cool. It was all about making it real. And I've added the link later so that you can find it if you want to. And more recently, we've brought Holocaust survivors into the classroom. And my piece de resistance is that we are attempting to talk to an astronaut in space sometime next year. it's all about making the connections. It's all about offering something that the teachers don't have time to do themselves. We've seen engagement from year 1 through to year 10. So everybody gets something out of it. What I've learned from this in subsequent sessions is that not all teachers have the knowledge about the online resources that we have available. So through these lessons, I'm able to give them access to some great resources that they didn't know about. And my lessons also reinforce the message that they are teaching. We've used Flipgrid, which is a quick video, and I know this one works. It doesn't work from here, but it does work here. Basically, we used a book called Wonder. We got the students in America to read Wonder. We read it too, and we challenged the American students to come up with a question.
Our question is, if you can describe the book in 5 words or less, what would it be?
No, there is a great response, honest. Okay, am I going to show you? Have I got time?
If we had to describe Wonder in 5 words, it would be surprising, exciting, dramatic, interesting, and touching. Bye!
It was worth waiting for. Okay, so I know that it seems like a simple task, but the students responding needed to plan what words they were going to use, decide how they were going to present it, and then use the technology to respond. They were very engaged because they had a real audience. If you'd asked students to think of 5 words in your classroom, the engagement wouldn't have been as great. We then have used it in different ways with NQT students. Part of the training that we do is that we encourage them to give it a go themselves. It also allows me to have blue hair, so hopefully it might work. Okay, so I always like to give an example of what I want them to do.
Hi everyone, I just wanted to show you how this works. You press the button at the bottom, you then answer the questions that you can see on the right. You've got 1 minute 30 seconds to have a go at it. It does mean that you can play out with it a bit, listen back to your own recording, delete and try again. Have a go and see what you think.
Now, I was very rushed when I was doing that, so there's a lot of M's, so I didn't record it. But I did manage to get Daryl to respond. What you'll find is that there's a lot of background noise to the video because they're all doing this at the same time. Okay, but he has given me permission to show you this. Oh, hang on, before I... Alright, sorry, the questions, I wanted to show you. The questions, okay, so what did you enjoy most about this morning and why, and what would you prefer to have missed if you could? Okay, it makes more sense now.
The most thing that I enjoyed was the wide range of different resources that we were able to use, which would be very beneficial to learning in history and other topics. However, I would have preferred to have missed recording this video, as I'm now feeling very embarrassed.
Okay, so what we were able to do within that training session was also talk about the fact that students equally feel embarrassed, so just by putting a camera in front of them, you know, they need time to plan and prepare what they're going to say. I did a quick Google search to find out that there were loads of lovely other ideas to how to use Flipgrid in the classroom. So you could get them to read an article, and instead of getting them to make notes, you can ask them to respond by video and then respond to each other's. An end of year reflection is something I liked. Advice to next year's class, or to share what they know about a topic. And my favourite one was a 30-second book talk challenge, but you'll guess as why I like that one. And I'm sure if I looked again I'd find more. The basic link to the curriculum for this tool is digital literacy and e-safety, because your students learn how to use the tool, and it can also be used to talk to students about how to behave online. Add a topic element allows you to teach content, whilst the librarian provides the opportunity for for added support for the research element, saving time, collaboration opportunities, as well as the support in the classroom. I'm not on my PowerPoint. Okay, so we've also used Padlet. I don't know whether anybody has managed to use Padlet, but it's an online post-it board, but instead of it being flat, you can add web links and you can also comment. Now there's the obvious one about sharing about a book that you could put up, a book discussion, but we've used it with a Year 9 group who were doing an extended essay project. We were trying to teach them about annotated bibliographies, which wasn't very easy. So we ran a website evaluation lesson, then asked them to find one website that they thought was credible from the criteria we gave them. Once they'd found one, they were asked to post it and then comment on why it would be useful for their project. It gave the teacher and myself an opportunity to see what their understanding of a quality website looked like, but it also allowed us to pinpoint students who needed the extra support. We've also used it in a very similar way for younger students. After a website evaluation lesson with a Year 5, we sent them home to actually post a website on the Padlet. We then used it as a peer review lesson afterwards, because we were then able to look at the websites that they had collected and discuss together which ones were good quality. What the outcome of that was that we ended up with a Padlet that had maybe 3 or 4 really good quality websites that they could use for their project. And going back to the way we've used it in literacy is I worked very closely with Caroline Lawrence, who's an author of the Roman Mysteries, and I told her that we were reading her book in a book club, and would she be prepared to answer the questions. I happened to say to her the date and the time that we would be online, and lo and behold, she turned up. So the children were posting their questions and she was responding immediately. They were like, whoa, this is so cool. But once they sort of settled down and started looking at what she was saying back to them, their questions became really, really thoughtful. And one boy who really didn't show much interest in the book asked probably my favourite question, and it was, if your characters were emotions, what would they be? Now I don't think I would have got that kind of question from him had we not used the online tool and had the live connection. So if you're sitting here thinking, what can you do about your school library provision? I thought I would end with a few ideas. If you have a school librarian, go and talk to them and find out what they can offer. You have to be aware that there are different levels of librarians in schools, and some of them are not there to teach. But if you have a qualified librarian, they are there and available and should be asked. Talk to them about collaboration. You might get a surprised look because many librarians don't get approached. So your first response might not be a positive one. They might be very scared. But actually what they are experts in is research skills. They can talk to your students about referencing and plagiarism. They have digital literacy, so they can do online searching, digital tools, and Google searching. They can help you with digital citizenship, which is social media and online collaboration. And most of all, they can save you time by helping you connect with other educators and schools and professionals around the world. And they can also offer training and support. I run CPD sessions for teachers. If you don't ask, you don't get. And if you find that you have a librarian that is wanting but not quite ready to do that yet, then they need to be encouraged to go on some training courses, because that's what their potential is in your school. I think I missed one, but anyway. Okay, so you're not alone. Working with your school librarian saves you time, supports your teaching and learning, improves your students' research skills along with improving literacy skills, and enhances academic attainment. And there is evidence to show that. If you want to find out more about research on how school librarians make a difference, I've added them to my final slide, and my contact details are on that, and I'm happy to talk about how I can support the process in any of your schools. Teaching was never meant to be a do-it-yourself job. Find the people who can support you and work with them, and remember that every child deserves a great school library. Thank you very much for listening.